We've got a great keynote here with Nick. Guys, if you don't know Nick, well, you do now, and I'm sure that's a rarity here for the people that are participating in PaintScout X today. Nick, welcome.
John, always a pleasure. You know what a big fan of you I am, but also PaintScout.
Oh, thank you, man. Well, I've I'm thrilled to introduce you today because I'm a huge fan as well, and I have been. I'm one of those, I show up to the conference kind of guys, and I lurk there, and I've been doing that for a long time. So I'm a fan, and I'm excited to introduce everybody to you. And you've been doing this a while, 29 years in the painting industry. You serve as the board chair of the PCA and the host of Ask a Painter live weekly, right? You've done this like hundreds of times now, week
Almost
after
9 years without missing a week.
it's just an incredible accomplishment. And I know from personal experience, I mean, you have expertise in estimating, production management, developing efficient systems, and someone that I've learned from, whether you know it or not. So I'm
Oh,
excited
man.
to hear from you today. And I'm going to give you the stage, guys. As per usual, ask any questions in the Q&A so that maybe we can keep it kind of organized. And in the chat, anything you can contribute to this session, we'd love to hear it. And let's go. Nick, take it away.
You got it, man. Hey, and you guys know me as the Ask a Painter guy, so I got some fresh stuff to show you as a promise to John and all the people watching. I have some fresh stuff from my business that's up to date. As the Ask a Painter guy, I love the Q&A, so I'm going to save plenty of time. And John's going to pop back on here, I assume, at the end and sort of moderate the questions for me. And he'll eventually just cut my screen when my time runs out. So, all right, everybody. Today, I was asked to present about something that I'm kind of known for, which is simple data. I'm going to show you lots of colorful graphs. I'm going to show you lots of data points. The thing I want you to take away is that it looks fancy, and it always looks fancy when you're looking at somebody else's spreadsheet, when you're looking at somebody else's data. The problem is people give it too much. People put too much weight on this stuff because this is data that already exists in all of our businesses. And all you have to do is get it and do something with. And that is the difference between owning a job and owning a business, is the ability and the wherewithal and the knowledge and the attempt of getting that data, putting it into something usable and doing it. So this is a presentation for PaintScout and all of you guys called Data Equals Power, the science of stuff that already exists. And I don't want to overplay that. This stuff already exists in your business, whether you collect it or not. All you have to do is collect it. That's the only thing that's holding you back. So this is my operations manager dashboard. As promised, I'm going to show you lots of fancy on-brand colored graphs. I do love me some beige, as you know. And this is what I look at. I wear two main hats in my own painting business in Minnesota, operations manager and marketing manager. And I created a dashboard for when I eventually hire this position out. I want visual indicators of how our company's doing. And within 30 seconds, I can look at this and I can tell you exactly how my company is going up to the date. All of these graphs, all of this data, all of these things already exist. I just grabbed those things, put them on a spreadsheet, created a graph that feeds from that spreadsheet, and then makes these graphs like this. So instead of having to look at all the graphs and looking at numbers and trying to extrapolate some pattern or data from it, I have a visual indicator to tell me if I'm doing good or bad. And pattern detection is a thing that us leaders and managers have to do, and this helps with that an immense amount. So using data to solve the biggest problems. That's what I do in my own company. We are known for simple. We are known for consistent. We are known for professionalism. I don't think we use any apps or software that anybody else does. We use PaintScout. It is the best. It's a staple here. You guys have access to the same PaintScout I do, except I have a little bit of an outlier result. And what I want to do is talk about that sort of interaction there. If you struggle with any of this stuff, what do you charge for X, right? The most prevalent question on all the painter face group forums, right? What do you charge for X? What is good? And how should my estimator, how much should my estimators be selling? Is that good or is it bad? You got to have projections, you got to have actuals, right? And what should my sales goals be? Every single year, I add another data point, which allows me to make these graphs. The gray is projected, the tan is actual, and you can see the plateau of my year. I've extrapolated 17 years of data from my own business to come up with reliable, standardized predictions of how much we should sell, because we're not going to sell the same amount in June as we are in December. And if you set those sales goals for your people, they're going to fail. They're going to either oversell during one part, and then they're going to undersell at the other. So Michael Scheibel just said, that looks fantastic. You didn't see this slide. This does not look fantastic. This is how I used to estimate 10 years ago, right? I did like everybody else did. I did like my father did. It's Aluminum Contractor's book. It's one of my paper estimates. And you can see over in this section right here, this is my filing system. You can see my mouse moving over here. Each one of those folders is 1 year of estimates in my painting company. You can imagine the disaster it is when I have to dig out one from 2 years ago and update it, right? This is not bad, but there's so much better out here. Interesting data point for you. You can see this was mine up until 10 years ago. On the right is one of my estimator's PaintScout proposals. On the left is actually one of my father's estimates. This is an estimate that he created for brand new construction 35 years ago. I was on an estimate coaching one of my estimators. Not only did the client say, your father painted this house when it was new, they said, we have your father's estimate. Would you like it? What do you think I said? Absolutely, I want that estimate. And so I have this as a piece of history in this. I was never privy to any of my father's estimates when I worked with him since I was 10 years old. So to have this is pretty incredible. Also, he is left-handed. He's an English major and he is a house painter. You can tell that he wrote a story about this house. Now, this is all fine, except that some of his stuff is still hard to read. You can imagine, going back to my estimate, scalable systems. I haven't heard a single human in the entire PaintScout X conference today that said, I want to be a smaller business. I want to be less professional. I want less humans around me, right? This is not a judgment on business size, but if you ever want to have another human in your business, you need to have standardized systems. One of the things that forces you to standardize better than anything else is to hire another human. I hired my first project manager. I handed him this estimate right here and I said, go paint this house. That poor human had no idea what to do. Can't read my writing. There's arrows. There's dates on there. There's even a part on the bottom that says ceiling -ask. What in the hell is a project manager supposed to do with all this? So it instantly makes you professionalize. Now we can send them a PaintScout and now it's all there. Not only is it all there, you click work order and it sends everything in a manageable form that your painters can use as well. Michael Murray, this 10 years ago slide is going to give me nightmares. I've lived this. There must be children. Anybody who's been in business for more than about 5 or 10 years has done that. And in fact, I show that slide. It's so important because 80 years ago, 90 years ago, 10 years ago, even now, that's still happening. That shows you how little innovation there is in our industry. That's why things like PaintScout are so dang important to this. You automatically leaps and bounds over that. My father retired about 2 years ago. He ran a separate painting company. He was still doing that up until 2 years ago, right? And now we have the beautiful, clean data. And it's not just any data. I ran on self-reported data for 15 years in my business, right? And it's good. It's clean. It's not as clean as when an objective third party that has standards and no feelings collects your data. That objective third party with no feelings is PaintScout. So now we are getting, I thought my data was pure and clean and fresh. It is now the purest, the cleanest, the freshest, and it's reliable. And now you can start looking for trends over long periods of time, right? Also, who the heck loves leaderboards more than us, right? This is the greatest thing on earth. I will also take this time to say my 2 estimators were ranked nationally a couple of weeks ago. One of them hit number 9 for his sales that month. Very proud of that, but also it's great perspective for them because I know my guys are good. They're not connected to the industry as much as I am. So what I did is I took that leaderboard where my beloved estimator Ian hit number 9 in the entire PaintScout universe, in the entire world. I screenshotted it and sent it to him. Big high fives for estimator Ian. And connecting them to this world is a big thing too. It's great perspective. Like the first session when John was talking about competition is good. Good competition is good. And it makes us all better. And it also does suss out the people who don't have the personalities for this. If this makes you angry or sad or makes you crumble, you may not have the fortitude for this sort of thing. So let's talk about the 3 ways we're going to come up with price. Just because we got to round out the world of what we think about with what do you charge for X, right? So obviously there's the gut and the experience. There's the production rates and job costing. And then there's one that I don't hear talked about much, which I have heard talk about today, is market rate and unit pricing. So I'm going to reference these things and I want you guys to understand this is like the triangle of pricing. There's a feeling side over here. There's a data side down here. I believe the market and the unit price is a combination of feelings and data. Tons of data, but you still need to use your feelings. Just like a stockbroker tries to play the market, make some guesses, make some bets, puts and takes, you need to do the same thing with estimating. Probably a good time to mention, never in the history or the future of your painting business will you be absolutely assured of the price that you're giving, because you may be assured of what you need to charge for your company. Your clients are irrational feral cats, just like a lot of our employees and us are irrational. We are not rational consumers. We don't make pricing choices or buying choices rationally based on facts, data, and logic all the time. A lot of it has to do with feelings and other things, and a lot of things that we don't control. I'll get into that philosophy and why we estimate like we do later. My company largely operates on the market and unit pricing. So my guys can ring a doorbell to drive off 1 hour. They can complete a highly itemized estimate, ceiling, walls, trim, and cabinets for 3 levels of a house, present it, send it to the client, answer any questions, out the door. It's a numbers game in my mind, at least in Res Repaint, and that's why we estimate like we do. Thank you guys for the questions. Keep posting them there. We'll dig through them. There's a lot of them already. So, all right. When somebody ask a painter or me or somebody else, what is the perfect price? I will always have that discussion to come up with the perfect price, but you need to also have a strategy for that thing, which is the perfect price is the most you can charge that fills your schedule and it's profitable when produced. That's the 3-step method for checking that a price is correct in my own company. Long ago, we got away from production rate pricing. Production rate pricing, measuring production rates, charge rates were integral to how I came up with my pricing model. Then afterwards, I realized measuring was slowing us down, right? And we have so much data. Why can't we empower this data? Why can't we find the patterns in it? And then I put it through a filter, the Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration filter, and I hand these beautiful unit pricing models. So we only have 13 types of exteriors that we estimate and produce. And I've done all the 3D models. I'll show you examples of those later. And we found out that they all group in about 13 kinds, and we go from there. So all 3 of these have to be true. All 3 of these have to be true. We're going to talk about 3 levels of data to start coming up with surety in your pricing model, in your production model, and all this other stuff. I'm just going to show you the 3 levels of data that I start using, right? These are basic things that already exist. And I'm just going to show you like where it starts, where it progresses to, and typically where, it ends, give or take. Level 1 data, you look at your sales revenue, you look at your success ratio, which is how many estimates versus how many you sell. And then you look at AJS, average job size. That you can start paying your people a salary and a bonus based on this, because now we get this pure, clean data from the PaintScout dashboard, and you can attach a incentivizing comp plan to your people. But you need that nice, clean data to do that, because as managers and leaders and owners, if we mess with people's pay, give them more or give them less based on our feelings, we are horrible managers and bosses. You cannot do that. Everybody's pay and compensation and benefits must be based on data and not feelings at all. So we're going to take sales revenue, success ratio, and average job size, and we're going to start figuring out how we can compensate our people, usually with a commission or a bonus structure, something like that. But PaintScout makes it super easy. It's infallible data. It's just reporting to you what actually is in a very consistent time horizon. Level 2, we're starting to look at those 3 things plus job type, sales revenue, SR, AJS, and then we start looking at what types of jobs, right? So now you can say my AJS is 5133, but the problem is we have 82,000 Victorian mansion restorations. We have $450 bedrooms in there and everything in between. So you start parsing out types of jobs by interior versus exterior. We have 2 different AJSs in my company for that sort of thing. Interior AJS is floating around 3,900, 4,000. Exterior AJS is between 7,000 and 8,000, depending on times of the year. We just started parsing a lot of that stuff out last year. So it's a fresh data point, and it kind of waffles between 7 and 8 grand for me this year, which is probably an industry average, nationwide average, things like that. But why? It's a pricing model, right? We can start looking at types of jobs. And in fact, when I looked at all my exteriors and I sorted them by the 3D models about what the actual exterior envelope square footage is, I found out they grouped up into about 13 different types. So then I simplified the whole world of Here's an exterior. Here's a Victorian mansion. Here's a stucco job that takes locks on XP. Here's a tiny little house. Here's a log house. I found out that there's really only about 13 types of exteriors that we do, and there's bracketed, bookended pricing for that. So we start at this number. You can go lower, you can go higher, but you can't go below the one below it. You can't go above the one above it. That helps you with your pricing model, starting to look at different job types, and you can categorize those in PaintScout. Level 3 data, you take all those things and then you add in job costing. Beautiful, beautiful job costing. The thing that we want to hire out, the thing that we don't want to do, the thing that we know we have to do, but we don't want to do. Job costing is the key to all of this stuff, right? SR, AJS, revenue sold is a great number. It's an objective number. You can pit it against other people around the world. That's fine. But job costing, combined with the PaintScout data, is where the real magic happens. And I'm showing you an example of my simplified job costing on the right. I think this was 2 years ago. We realized that I had a feeling, and I could not prove it with data until I scrubbed this, which is I think we were losing our tail on small houses, like the smallest, on a 1 to 13, 1 being our smallest house. I was like, man, I feels like we're just taking forever on these number ones. It feels like number 8s are bread and butter, kind of, suburban house, $700,000-$800,000 house. I feel like we're just like way overcharging, making too much money. I think we need to sell more of those things. Well, what I did was I took my job costing, I combined it with some PaintScout data, I simplified it, I parsed it out, and I actually ranked them. I sorted them by order of most profitable to least. And within this slide, you can see what we charged, the area of the outside of the house, the price per square foot. What I found out, because we have a consistent pricing model, I didn't waffle my prices up and down. I found out that actually those number 1 houses were one of the most profitable houses. They didn't make the most profit, but by percentage, they made the most percentage profit. On the number 8 houses, we were actually getting pretty slim on gross profit. If our goal is 45, we're waffling at 45, 48. We're kind of right in there where if you have to buy a couple more gallons, you might do something wrong. So if I acted on my feelings and charged a hell of a lot more for those small houses and a hell of a lot less for those number 8s, that would have been the worst of all things. I would have lost out on some of the most profitable houses, sold less of them, and I would have sold a bunch of those number 8s, but I would have lost money on them. This told me that, wait, actually, the smalls, the number 1s were actually pretty tight. The number 8s, you're actually making a lot of money on. So in fact, what we did this year for the first time in 17 years, I brought the price down year over year from one house to another. Side note, market rate and unit rate pricing, especially market rate, it can chase the market up, but then it also needs to chase the market down. During the years of COVID, a number 8 house got as high as $22,000 to repaint in the outside of my company. It has came back down to about $12,000 to $14,000, depending on the type of house right now, because we use that 3-point checklist. I want to charge the most I can and fill my schedule. And when I produce it, I can produce it profitably. We were filling a schedule with 22,000 number 8s in the year 2023, 22-23, at the height of the COVID irrationality. In 2024, we saw our leads and sales go down a little bit. We caught it in the spring and we moderated some prices. And for the first time in 17 years, I lowered a price. I have some results from that for you later on here that I want to talk about. This is an example of the 3D model I did to build my not only production rate model, but then my unit rate model. And basically we went around, we did these to our exteriors. Interiors was easy. We have about 21 different things. There's a big bedroom, a small bedroom, a bathroom. There's a hallway. There's 3 types of stairwells. There's a kitchen. We charge per door and drawer. For cabinets, we charge per door for passage doors. And there's only 3 types of interior windows that we paint: fixed, casement, double hung, paintable, non-paintable sashes, and we have a price for each of them. Side note on all this, PaintScout is really set up for you production rate guys. So what do you charge per square foot? How long does it take you? What's your charge rate? Things like that. PaintScout team absolutely did a bang up job. I sent them my entire price Bible, my whole spreadsheet full of all this data, and they got it in there. So they adapted the production rate model, or the price per square foot or linear foot model, into my unit pricing. It is seamless. It is beautiful to see my 2 estimators work with that sort of thing. And here is how I train my estimators. This is what I lovingly call the children's books, right? We have a book where there's 13 different types of exteriors, including Victorian mansions, stuccos, standard houses, things like that. We have a general square footage envelope attached to each. And then we have a bracketed price system. The square footage, the pictures of the house don't change. Every year, like market rates, we moderate our prices up and down, left and right, things like that. And then we change it in PaintScout every year when we update those things. So the level 3 data, when you add in the job type and the job costing, you're basically turning your pricing model and your manager skills into a scalpel decision instead of a hammer decision. If I did not have this data a year to 2 years ago, I would have said, I feel like we're losing out on exteriors. Let's raise those prices. The detrimental effect of that would have been I would have sold less and my company would have been worse off if I had not parsed out all this data like that. Good reminder, all of this data exists. You just have to grab it. The square footage of that house exists. Did you measure it? It's up to you. You have revenue, you have time, you have price, you have gallons used. All these things exist. You just have to grab them and put them into a spreadsheet and use them for good. And here's what my price Bible looks like. In combination with the PaintScout data, we have job costing, we have our schedule, and we have our success ratios, which all lets us work in our market rate pricing system, which means weekly, monthly, quarterly, certainly, we take a look at what's the most we can charge with a full schedule, and it has to be profitable when we produce. I look at lead times. I look at sales. I look at all this other stuff. I look at labor capacity, and all of these things have to be juggled. You remember my operations manager dashboard? All of those things, I'm looking for certain projected versus actuals in there to make sure that all those things are going along, with the end result being, am I charging the most I can charge for these jobs? Now, people may say, well, what about materials? What about overhead? Do you do markups? All this other stuff. Say, listen, we're all talking about the same thing. At the end of the day, I'm going to make a PaintScout estimate and there's going to be a price at the bottom. I'm going to hand that to the client. It includes all that stuff. You can come up with price by measuring something. You can come up with price, by all sorts of magical ways. You can say, well, here's my materials. I'm going to mark it up 3x, give or take. I do this plus $1,000 profit a day, things like that. You can come up with any of this stuff. At the end of the day, we're all meeting at the same place, which is you're going to hand that client a price and then you have to produce it to a high level and profitable. And this is something that is very, very interesting. The PaintScout guys all know that data is king. They know that I love data, and I do anonymous pricing experiments all over the country. This is the final results from, I think, up until about January, February of this year. I have people anonymously estimate the same 3 jobs: a cabinet job, a wall job, and an exterior. And it's all standardized. It's things that we've all seen around the country. Without going into all this data here, the most important thing I can tell you are these yellow numbers, right? In total, for most jobs across the United States, there is at least a 90% differential between the highest and the lowest estimate for the same jobs between the most professional painting contractors in the US. So what does that mean for perspective, right? We always talk about price, right? We always talk about finding clients, but sometimes we need to turn around and say, what is it like for the client? Right? So you go to buy a Ford F-150 and you go to 3 different dealerships. I can guarantee you, minus a $150 rebate or a sales guy that likes you, that'll give you a little break, you are going to get the same price basically at all 3 dealerships. What if you were to go to that Ford dealership and there was a 90% price differential between the highest and the lowest? That is so crazy. That is such a big difference. You wouldn't immediately say, you got to think about this. You don't immediately go to the lowest one. There's such a difference in prices. You think, I'm getting screwed. I just don't know where. Is it the guy who's charging me too much? Is it too little? Is it somewhere in between? There's such a price difference. It causes confusion and chaos for our clients. So that's why, especially in uncertain times like this, we need to be calm. We need to be collected. We need to be trustworthy. And we have to have consistent pricing models. You cannot change your pricing based on feelings. You can't pay your people based on feelings. It all has to be consistent, because if you change your pricing on every job, every estimate, you cannot trust your data. It is not a good experiment. You need to have a model that says, I'm going to charge this. And number one, I want to fill my schedule. Once I fill my schedule, I start ratcheting that up, maybe every month. Keep ratcheting that price up till we have gaps in the schedule. Then you might have reached the market rate for that project. Then you hold tight. If you start booking out more than about 3 or 4 weeks again, then you start ratcheting up that price. But see, this takes the next level of sophistication. This doesn't take specialized software or anything else. You just have to collect the data that already exists and look at it and then make decisions based on data and not your feelings, right? So again, In total, in sum, the perfect price for every single job on the planet, for every company, every size, everywhere, is the most you can charge while fills your schedule, and it has to be profitable when it's produced. Um, to me, estimating in the res repaint world is a numbers game. It does not mean that we are not relational. It does not mean that we are not relational, right? We are very trustworthy. We create great bonds with our clients. In fact, we're probably going to do about 1.4 to 1.6 million dollars of word of mouth repeat and referral business this year. That tells you the kind of rapport we have with clients and then the people who they refer to us, right? But in the end, I have data and it tells me this. I'm a firm believer. I can't prove or disprove this, but ever since I adopted this strategy, everything has got very good for me, which is when you go out on an estimate or 100 estimates, a third of the people will always buy from you. A third of the people will never buy from you, and you might be able to sway the last third. I am a firm believer in that. I cannot prove to you it's true. I cannot disprove to you that's true. It's how I operate my business, and we've been steadily increasing success ratio, increasing average job size, increasing total sales, and increasing profit in my company. What this means for somebody is if I have two estimators, one can do 10 estimates a week, 2 hours an estimate. The other one can do 20 estimates, 1 hour a week. Guess which one, under this philosophy, is going to sell more? You're absolutely right. It's the one who does 20 estimates a week because so much of the buying thing is out of our control. We can have PaintScout. We can have good prices. We can have market rate stuff that people like. We can have a guaranteed product. We can do all these things. In the end, we cannot control the buying choices of our clients. We can make the best choice ever for that. We can make the best argument to buy us ever. And still, you don't know. You don't know how that person makes that decision. And that's how we do this in my company, right? So why is all this stuff important? You have to have a system, no matter what it is. If you end up doing linear feet, square feet, materials plus markup plus profit, anything like that, you just have to have a reliable system. You cannot begin to start messing with market rate pricing unless you have consistent pricing first over a long time horizon so that when you do change a variable, you change only one, the price, not the system, not the codings, not the SOPs, not anything else. You have to gather data. I mean, this is the difference between owning a job and owning a business. If you don't like collecting data, you don't want to collect data, you're dangerously close to being an employee and not a business owner, right? You can even have somebody else do this stuff for you. Accountants are not actually that great at job costing and all that stuff. They love bookkeeping and taxes, right? If you make them job costs, guess what? You're still going to have to manage them. You're still going to have to know the ins and outs of job costing. You're still going to have to verify it every week like I do in my own company. I don't put my job costing together, but I verify every gallon of paint and every labor hour every week so that I can ensure that all this data is succinct, right? This industry is professionalizing. I don't have to tell you that. You take a look at all the people that I'm looking at comment here, all the people watching. What I'm seeing is this entire industry is getting younger, it's getting more diverse, and it's getting more entrepreneurial, right? Noticeably. I've been traveling around this country for somewhere between 8 and 10 years, looking into people's profit and loss statements, talking deeply about the human side of this business. This industry has completely turned over in the last 10 years with the advent of social media. I got brought up in Trades V1, which is old grumpy craftspeople yelling at young people. I used to be that, by the way. And now it is not that. There are no more old grumpy, well, there are old grumpy people still around, but they're either going to change or die. That's kind of how it is out there right now. Clients are demanding more. Right now, there's a 90% price differential between the highest and the lowest between professional painting estimates. I can prove to you with data that this myth of the underbidder, the undercutter, is completely false, right? Think about this. Do you think that there is a whole bunch of painting contractors who have very reliable, succinct, consistent pricing models? They know exactly what you charge. And when they go out and do estimates, they purposely charge half to spite you. Do you think that's a true statement? I don't. I never have, and I never will. And I can prove it with data that that person doesn't exist. I'm a firm believer that every single human who starts a painting company believes they're charging the most that they can charge. They just don't, parse my words here, board chair of the PCA. They don't know what they're doing with love, right? They are unprofessional. They're fragmented. They want to do good, but there's a barrier to information, access to information, and there might be a lack of grit. But either way, until you have a consistent pricing model, that's always going to exist. I also don't believe in competition, at least in the res repaint world, where if you think these undercutters, these people like that are taking your work, you are wrong. You're just wrong. Typically, we are our own worst enemy. We suffer from limiting beliefs, and we're the only thing holding back, right? And the economy is changing, right? I am a firm believer that we are entering a regular economy, a normal economy, and not a bad economy. I've shown graphs before on various platforms, including Ask a Painter, where I look at the graph of all my leads for 17 years and the gross domestic product of the United States. And in 2024 spring, I saw my leads cut in half. We were used to getting 80 leads a week. We're now getting 40, 45. And I got scared that that recession was finally going to hit us, right? Well, guess what? I don't know that we're in a recession. You can only tell if you're in a recession in hindsight. Doesn't change anything I do. What I realized is we were coming down from an irrational high of COVID. We weren't leaving a normal time going deeper and possibly into recession. So what that means now is you've seen an amazing shift in where are all the good people to where's all the good leads now. That's all the chatter on the internet. Everybody's jazzed up about marketing, finding leads, finding opportunities. I believe we're entering into a 1 to 10 year period where getting getting opportunities to estimate and then selling as many of those estimates as possible is going to be the key, and labor is going to be less of that. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It just means that labor will be easier than that, and you may have to shift time and money resources back over to marketing so that we can actually practice our estimating stuff. So that is my email address, everybody. I am also the board chair of the PCA, and on behalf of everybody there, including board members, which I've seen today, Juan, Brad, and others, I would invite you, if you like any of this stuff, John Bryant and company are big supporters of that. And we absolutely love what's going on here. So thank you for doing this today. Hey guys,
The chat
you
there.
see the slide. Now's the time for questions. Let's go here. Oh, I see my project manager, Kelly, on here too. So hello, Kelly.
Thank you, Nick. That was a lot of data, and that's what we were hoping for.
Man, I always feel like everybody's got to get their money's worth. And if I have 3 slides and talk a long time, I feel like I just got to jam a bunch of data and people can decompress it later.
Yeah, well, as we've said over and over, this session was recorded, so you can watch it back in slow motion, half speed,
Heck yeah.
and absorb it, or watch it back 4 or 5 times. So, yeah, really great content, very helpful, really good to see, and thank you for sharing. Your personal details. It's really helpful to see it in context. See
No,
how someone.
I really do appreciate this, man. And again, if I could just reiterate, like again, I'll show you the fancy graphs, and everybody just thinks, oh, it's just I'm over here and that's over there, and this stuff already exists, man. I just cannot preach that enough. That it's just amazing how much of this stuff is floating around in the air, and you just have to be aware of it and grab that stuff out of the air like this. That's the difference between owning a job and owning a business, is using your time to do that, to make good decisions, and then be consistent in your business.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and if people don't know already, Nick is he's willing to share all the insights and all the information. I mean, being here today is one version of that, but yeah, every time we chat, you're very open and honest and genuinely, like, I don't think anyone could argue that you just want everyone to succeed in there and grow their business and do well.
Well, my experience with all this being a servant leader is, and you'll see a lot of people like Brad Ellison and things like that agree, which is the more you give to others, the more you get in return. And sometimes so much so that you actually start feeling self-conscious about it, that it's like, geez, this wasn't my strategy, but I feel like I'm getting more than I'm giving sometimes. So, but it's been great. It's connected me with you guys. It's connected me with other people. So, we got Terry Wusheny. Do you do yearly evals with your estimators and the 13 models and make tweaks? So here's the deal. As the operations manager and the person who does this, I make the tweaks. I make at least 2 price increases or adjustments a year. And I do not do yearly evals. I do weekly evals with my estimators. I specifically have a one-on-one with every one of my estimators every Monday, because they're out there estimating. They're absent from the office. They're absent from a lot of the other just daily interactions. I want them to have a very succinct pipeline to me. So we talk very quickly about their KPIs, and then I let them populate a list of topics, and then I hammer those topics with them. And then I usually bring it back to something personal of affirmations, coaching, appreciation, and gratitude in those things. But the thing is, a yearly evaluation is, oh man, you have to evaluate your prices and your humans as often as possible with time allows.
See, no, we're going to try John one more time. Shoot, he's out.
Johnny boy,
Go grab a second lunch. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Nick. We are, right at time. There might be some questions still coming in here, but definitely there's Nick's email if you don't already have him on Facebook, that's a good place to find Nick Slavik.
That's it. Here to serve, guys. This is awesome, man. All right. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody, for watching. Thanks for all the comments, and enjoy the rest of this. This is awesome.
Thank you, Nick. Okay. Take care.